Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to our latest edition of Chat with Legends. Today we bring you José Pena from Los Angeles, who is a content creator. He will be telling us about projects for the coming years. So stay tuned and don't forget to follow us on our social media. Hello.
How's it going?
I'm doing okay. What about you?
Doing well, taking it day by day. It's always an adventure.
Yeah, it's a great pleasure to have you here.
And no, thank you for having me. I
Yeah,
had a chance to look over some of your videos, and I dig what you're doing. I think it's cool.
yeah, thank you. Thank you. We appreciate that a lot.
Awesome.
So how's your day going today? I know you're living, I mean, in LA. How is LA today? How are things going? How are the
Well,
projects going?
it's
Busy.
hot.
Okay.
Things are progress is slow, but especially because the industry is recovering from the craziness of last year. Like people think the strike's over, so like things is just gonna go back into place. No, it shed light on a lot of things. So I would say work has been recovering is the best way to describe it, depending on where you're at. Some people are still working commercially, but because it affected so many things, because there's a back slate of things. Yeah, work is just it's kind of interesting
Yeah,
right now.
yeah. But do you think this is the proper time, is a better time to build the new things, to build the projects, etc. If you compare with
Oh yeah, I think that is the silver lining in the whole thing. I think because everything is stagnant now, there's no excuse to not get work done. Because I mean, I saw a couple of your interviews, so I know you've covered some of the topics regarding the film industry. So I don't want to like the risk of repeating myself.
okay, yeah,
Movies are they're pretty easy to make nowadays compared to like the '90s and the '80s. Because technology is so accessible. You can make a movie from your phone.
yeah.
Um, so I think because of that, there's also this abundance of content. People always say there's nothing good, but I don't know. I just think a lot of things get washed away in the noise. So like you have to just constantly, I think even when things are down,
Yeah.
it's the perfect opportunity to create. And because we have access to the things we need, again,
Mm.
phone, don't need nothing crazy. I mean, obviously I get the ambition of being a filmmaker. You want to like sort of, you want to not sort of, but you want to create this world as vividly as possible, true to your vision.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna just say one person in my life told me he gave me some really interesting advice because when I started doing the whole filmmaking or just like thinking about it, he was like, you're thinking really big, and I think that's awesome. You will get there, but why don't you
Mm.
just start small? Start with this one thing, start doing it. So like that's kind of been the wisdom that's been in the back of my head, and moving forward from that point till now, I think I've carried that with me. It's been yeah, it's
Mm.
just been my go-to mantra. So right now I would say things are slow, but there's no reason why you can't get up and tell a story. Festivals are still running. Even me, I'm doing the same thing. We're all in the same boat. It's a community thing, So like
Yeah.
I think even because of that fact alone, that just makes more people willing to jump on projects.
Mm. So interesting, but it's important somehow to, let's say, to use the tools we have, because most of the time we've been complaining, we've been saying that, oh, we don't have that 4K camera, we don't have a black magic, but we do have a cell phone. So it's important to use the tool we have to build the new things, to tell new stories. But before we go deep in this conversation, I would like to know a little bit more about you. Who is José Pena? How do you describe yourself, and how did you get this interest of being part of the film industry?
Mm. Um, so I'm originally from New York. I was born and raised in the Bronx, Soundview. Um, I was originally a cartoonist. I was very interested in just comic books. From a young age, I would always make my own little comics. I had one called Jitso. I was really into manga. So I had a whole Japanese collection. It was it
Okay.
was it was it was fun. I mean, I grew up on cartoons, and of course, a lot of films. My aunt Michelle, who passed away, she, you know, back in the day, we used to have, well, in New York, you know,
Yeah.
people would sell the movies. We'd have to sell them, you know, they'd sell them illegally. It just says what it was. So you know, my aunt, she had a whole library of movies growing up,
Interesting.
and I had access to so many films at a very young age. And at the time, I didn't understand what was happening. I was just consuming content, you know, but I was consuming these sophisticated stories because, you know, movies back then versus now. I'm not saying there aren't anything. There's nothing sophisticated. I'm just saying there was a certain standard that was common as opposed to now where people see a good movie and they're like, oh, there aren't any good movies anymore. That's not true. There's so many good movies that still come out. But
Yeah,
again, it
yeah,
goes back
yeah,
to what I said earlier about the content. But
yeah.
yeah, as a cartoonist, you know, I got into watching films because of my aunt. That's just a habit that stuck with me since then. And then a friend of mine who was reading my comics one day was like, "Why don't you just make movies, man? You're
Hmm.
like the way you were writing, and then you have like a whole script for this thing, and I can like see it. And then you also make little playlists because I would make playlists for my comics, you know, so I could hear the music, and you know, I was really like in it and immersed. And I thought that dream was too big because I'm from the Bronx, so like in the Bronx, I'm now things have changed in New York, you know, and especially in that borough. But when I was growing up in the '90s, that was just a big dream.
Hmm.
I was like, how could I possibly do that? Like, how could I don't know anybody in Hollywood. I know nothing about anything in this. Like I'm literally here in this cul-de-sac,
Yeah.
and what am I gonna do? How? But I met people. We started talking. Picked up a little camcorder. I filmed a project for my English class. Funny enough, my first film was called Still Alive, and it was a montage, a zombie film
Yeah.
that me and my friends filmed to as our final in our English class. He was like, you know, you guys can do whatever you want. It can be you can write an essay, you can do a presentation. I just want to see what you have lined up for your futures. So what is it that you want to do? So I made a little short, and the class loved it. And it was addictive. I can't like it was really 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 addictive. I decided to take a course again for media studies, and then I was getting a little cocky when I did that because that was when I really got humbled. I will say, we're sitting in the class, you know, we're all learning. My teacher thought I was a bit of a problem student because I sometimes would show up to the class, like, you know, I smoke weed sometimes. So like I would show up to the class, yeah, I'm high. And then one day
Okay.
I gave him a script and he was like, oh, okay, so you really want to do this. You really want to, like, you're just being whatever you're being right now. You really want to do this. So
Okay.
from then on, he kind of like gave me reign of the class, which was weird because I never understood. Like I just was this guy who wrote it, but he's like, no, I want this. I want to do this to you as like an example, so you understand what it really is to be a director, because this is
Mm.
what you want to do, right? You say you want to do this. So he gave me reign of the class. You know, we did the whole semester. I did a short, and then people wanted to work with me, which was scary because I was like, oh, you know, you get imposter syndrome, and especially if you haven't done anything, you're like, what the heck is going on? We did a short for our final for that class, and it came out horrible. Luckily, I dodged ever having to show anyone that film because it was so bad. It was not good at
Okay.
all.
Mm.
Um, but yeah, I mean, ever since then, and like taking that L, I learned a lot. You know, it just like I can't explain it
Yeah.
other than it's I don't feel qualified to do anything else. So I decided to like take it further. I got my own camera this time, which,
Mm.
you know, this was like we're talking late 2000s, so like 2012 I picked up a camera. I
Mm.
had a DSLR courtesy of my grandmother. She bought it for me, and through that I learned composition. I just started taking pictures of everything I could see.
Yeah.
I started getting work at events, you know, so Sweet 16s, and I got hired for editorial events. Then I got hired to start shooting other parties, and then from there I took the skills I was using just building my, like, you know, compositional stature and
Mm.
started applying it to filming. And I
Mm.
finally was able to make a short film I was proud of that I filmed in my restaurant that I was working at the time.
Mm,
And then, yeah, it's just kind of been a crazy ride ever since. I moved out to LA in 2018 at the tail end. So I was doing a couple of I had a corporate job for a
mm,
while. And then I went to, yeah, pretty much I went to Guyana. I shot a feature documentary because my friend who I met at the corporate job, she had family in Guyana and she had roots, and she was like, listen, I want to like really go back and I want to capture the essence of my homeland, and I want to like be in touch with who I am, because America is a melting pot, right? Everybody comes from everywhere. So that was the whole point of that story. And again, I know I'm like jumping through time really fast, but the thing is that that's just how fast it happened. It was just like
okay.
one thing, one thing, one thing, one thing. Like there was never like a moment where I felt like once I jumped
Mm.
in, it just didn't stop. It's like a roller coaster.
But are you enjoying the process?
Oh yeah, no, I enjoyed every aspect of it. I enjoyed everything of it. I enjoyed learning, which is the best part of it all. Like you're always learning, no matter how long you do it. Especially in this day and age, right, where things are changing. People say they're losing jobs, but I just think that the jobs are evolving. I don't necessarily think that they're being lost. I just think, there was a certain standard back then, and technology moves forward, and you just move forward with it.
So,
Um,
but tell me a little bit more about your job as a cartoonist. Can you tell us, can you describe the process of building a cartoon? I mean, drawing a cartoon. I know Stan Lee used it to love Lobo, this character from DC. Can you tell us about your heroes? Who are the heroes of yours? I'm talking about the cartoonists, the people who drew cartoons that inspired you the most. Can you tell us a little bit about this chapter?
I only had one cartoonist. I mean, I do have a great respect for Stanley, love him. I dig Frank Miller. I dig Jack Kirby. But my favorite was Alan Moore. I
Mhm.
was really, really a big fan of his. And for anyone who doesn't know who Alan Moore is, check out a graphic novel called Watchmen. It will change your life. You might have seen the HBO show, which is
HBO.
a spinoff from that. But yeah, Watchmen. When I read that graphic novel, I was blown away. I didn't know you could write a cartoon like that.
Mm.
And yeah, that's really what got me into it. But then that's what led to my friend telling me, why don't I make movies? Because I was not writing. I wasn't writing fantastical stuff. I was writing pretty grounded, heavy drama, dark stuff. And I'm like, here I am, this 16-year-old guy who hasn't really had much life experience, talking, just going in
Okay.
uh, uh, all deep and thematic. So yeah, that was really my journey into that. I mean, outside of you know, I, I'm as I'm as nerdy as they come. Right, I've from Pokemon to to Dragon Ball Z to Sailor Moon to
No,
Yu
those
Yu
are amazing.
Hakusho. Yeah,
We grew
Cowboy
up
Bebop.
watching those. Mm.
Yeah, so like I mean, between that and then even to this day, that my favorite cartoon is currently Rick and Morty. I think it's fantastic, and if you haven't seen it, it's so fun.
So,
But yeah, that's
but, but,
pretty
but,
much
but
my
but how do you
journey.
compare US and how do you compare US to China, for example? We've been watching many cartoons from China, and somehow we could say that China is a little bit more advanced in this process of creating cartoons. Do you agree with with this thought?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I like to think,
Because we see more anime from China than from US.
yeah, I mean, to piggyback off of that, when you say advanced, yes, their stories and the subject matter that they tackle way different than anything you'd see in the US. I think that's why I really appreciated Cowboy Bebop in particular, because I think it was one of the first, and I could be so wrong, but it was the first anime I ever saw that tackled transgender, like like that as a theme. Like there's a character named Gren,
Mm.
um And I love the way they wrote that character. And I was just very surprised at how sophisticated it was for like a cartoon. I was like, that's when I knew it was a special cartoon. Because I was like, oh, you're covering like, and what was cool is it didn't make it political or anything. It was just this person that existed who had this way of life, and that's what it was. And that's when I knew. I was like, oh, I don't know if I'd ever see that in America. I highly doubt it. I haven't seen any, yeah, any cartoon I can think of now. I mean, I guess Rick and Morty's pushing the boundaries, but and I'm sure there's probably a whole bunch of cartoons I have to catch up on now. But yeah, in regards to the subject matter, I always felt like other places were a little more willing to touch on certain themes.
So why did you give up? I mean, you were a cartoonist and you decided to leave this part of your life. Is there any reason to, let's say, change the profession from cartoonist to content creator? What are the reasons behind this? I mean, this decision to leave this chapter of being a cartoonist to turn to this different stage, a different era, which is to be a content creator?
Well, I look at it more as a natural progression for me. It was just the evolution. Because I think when I was drawing, I was like just in the beginning when I first started sketching and getting into it. I think I was just finding my voice. I was and naturally that voice has evolved, and that skill still helps me to this day whenever I film, because now that I understand how to storyboard, because I've been doing it, like that was the whole intro to this process. Now that I understand that, and also now that I'm an editor, I never worry about overshooting when I'm on set. I know what my shots are gonna look like. I understand the lighting. It's like I live in that world. I've had a chance to build that muscle up until this point. So it's more of a natural progression. I haven't gotten back into necessarily making a graphic novel because that thought without the idea of filming doesn't make sense to me.
Mm.
You see, in the beginning, that was just a tool. I was like, oh, I need to get this out. I didn't realize that I was going to be a filmmaker. I didn't know I was going to start directing until I was 19. So, I had a couple of years where I was just messing around, drawing some stuff on pages, creating stories without any intention. It was just like, I have to do this. I feel like I have to do this. And then one conversation led to the next. You get older, you start thinking about where you can take things or how you can expand on things. And that was just a natural evolution. It's really what it came down to.
But many people say that to become a good actor, a good director, a good editor, is needed to get this, let's say, divine call. Do you think you're getting better in what you do because you got this call, or because you're doing the best you can as a professional, I mean, you are? What does it take to be a good editor, a good director? It's all
Well,
about your investments, about your effort, or is about this idea of that I got a call, a divine call. So I'm following what let's say life has decided that I should be one day. How do you describe this whole process?
I think it's different for everyone. I mean, for me, it definitely is, what I said earlier, just I don't feel qualified to do anything else, so I do feel called to do it. Like every day, I get inspired by something or a story comes up. I'm an observant person, so I pay attention to the world around me, and that in itself is like, to me, that's gold. Like I have so many things that I've already written, things that I'm writing currently, things that I'm starting to produce. So I can't say I I have a straight answer for that in regards to like my calling. It just is what it is. It feels that way. It's again, it's as natural as breathing.
Yeah.
Um, and the process in regards to like just getting good at it, I would say is understanding the craft.
Mm.
Like you can you can start now just by watching movies. Like if you watch films, yeah, you're basically doing homework. It
So
depends on like it depends on the reason why you're watching it, right? But like if you look at it and you start to
Mm,
sit back and realize that every shot has intention behind it, and that every
yeah,
scene has a meaning, and that every lighting choice is there to express. I'll give you a prime example. The best I could like right now just think of off my head. If you haven't seen it, watch Breaking Bad.
yeah, I've seen it. Yeah,
Like that right there is a prime example of just intention thing from every episode to the writing.
yeah.
Like they understand the craft of storytelling and filmmaking.
Amazing series, by the way. Yeah.
Yeah, that's super amazing. So that to me is the best advice I could give anyone, is really understand the craft. Like the one thing that bothers me is when I meet people who are doing it and they don't know why they're doing it. You know what I mean? Like in the sense
Mm,
that I'll meet an actor and I'm like, oh, who are your favorite actors? Oh, I don't really know. I haven't really watched anything. I don't watch things like that. But I'm like, how are you going to participate in the conversation? How are you going to contribute to it if you haven't, like, just sat down and really like acquired a taste,
mm,
So yeah, I would say sit down first, learn the craft, acquire your taste.
mm.
Um, and then yeah, one thing's just going to lead to the next.
But how do you analyze the film industry? I'm talking about the new opportunities, because if we see, do you think are they do you have conditions? I mean, are there conditions for newcomers, new filmmakers to build a new story, to create new things, or do you think that the platform is a little bit complicated? Because many people have been saying that, well, they are lacking opportunities to be a good to become a filmmaker, to become an actor, etc. How do you describe the film industry nowadays? What are the challenges, and what do you think that could be? What can we do differently so we can change the paradigms?
Stop waiting for the cavalry,
Okay.
and and
Mm,
recognize that you're the cavalry. That's the best way to describe it, especially now, since everything again is as accessible as it has ever been. People just want good stories. I truly believe that, and I think that that'll be something that'll forever be the case. So, for anybody who feels there isn't any opportunities, you got to make your own opportunities. And the best way to do that is just by putting action into it. You say you want to
mm,
do it. And then, before you know, you'll fall into a flow. Because that's how it worked out for me inevitably. Like I said, I was doing a lot of photography work back in New York. I was not filming half as much as I am now in LA when I was in New York. And I grew up in New York. So that goes to show you there was a lot of time that went by without filming. Um, but weirdly enough, because I was in a place where I had just put my own effort into it, when I came out to LA, I had randomly, I was looking for work. I got here first 8 days. And I'm not saying this is going to happen to everyone, but this does happen. People, I believe that the universe listens. You put it out, you get some stuff back.
mm,
I came into LA. I moved here about the first week. I was on Craigslist looking for work, and I ended up coming across this ad that said, "Hey, we need somebody to watch the studio 2 days out of the week. It's non-paid. It's an internship, but it's a great networking opportunity." So I'm like, you know what? I need to meet some people. Let me go. Let me go see what's up.
mm,
I go to the studio. I meet the manager, Stephen Meyer. He ends up telling me, he's like, "So do you know whose studio this is?" And I'm like, "No." He's like, "So this is Val Kilmer's studio." And I'm sitting there like, "Oh." And then he's like, "You want to come inside and see everything?" And I'm like, "Yeah." So I go there, I see everything. And then the following day, they're filming me as I'm walking into this office, and I'm
mm.
sitting right next to Val Kilmer, and we're talking. And
Amazing.
because of,
Yeah.
and this is just the
How
person.
do you access all that? How did you feel? If I mean, can you tell us about the emotions in
Oh,
that way?
I was like a kid. I was very composed, when he told me, but deep down I was like, wow, because I grew up on a lot of this man's work. Like I've seen so many films. I love Tombstone. I mean, I think Doc Holliday is one of his best roles.
Mm,
Um, so, and it's funny because before I moved out here, I was watching Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, and I was like,
yeah. Mm.
then I'm like, oh, what? So yeah, I'm here. I meet him, and that's really the reason. Like I owe immense respect to that man. He's the reason I have a life in LA. Like if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't have been an editor because I
Mm,
wasn't an editor when I came to LA. I was working as an intern in his shop, and again, this goes back to what I said earlier about putting in effort and just doing it because you feel you need to, like not because you want this or that. If you want to make money, go make money elsewhere. You could be a doctor, a dentist, you can go be a lawyer. There's other ways to make money. I'm not
mm,
saying you can't make money in the film industry, but that can't be the main reason you want to get into it unless that's the kind of person you want to be in the industry. If you want to be a studio exec, work for Marvel, go do all that. If you want to be an auteur and you just want to like have your own independent voice, you have to always do it 24/7. Nobody's gonna, it's you, all you.
yes,
So
all you,
so
yeah, yeah. Mm,
um so that's the same thing when I met Val to bring back and to bring this point together. I wasn't an editor, and he had a lot of material in his studio that was filmable. He has a lot of little Funko Pops and a little, memorabilia. So I was just filming content in the studio and sending it over to the studio manager and him. I was like, maybe you guys might want this for social media or something. And he ended up liking my style. So we had a staff meeting, and he's like, listen, I'm doing a short film. I need somebody to edit it. He's like, Jose, you're going to edit it. Um, I was not an editor again. I didn't know anything about Adobe Premiere. I edited his short film. My first short film that ever got any sort of public viewing was edited on iMovie. Okay. And
okay.
that's what happened. So
Does it still available to watch? Can we find
it's
that movie on
everywhere.
YouTube or
You could find it on IMDb. You can't
Vimeo?
find it on
Okay.
YouTube. Yeah, the only way you could have seen that film is if you had come to the screening, because the whole point of working with Val was that there was a studio on Melrose Avenue called Hellmelt Studios. That was his studio. He wanted to bring the community in and have it be a bit of a, sort of like an artist hub. So he would
Mm,
collaborate with a bunch of artists every month. We'd bring musicians in, there's filmmakers, there's painters, because Val also is an artist. He paints, and that was pretty much part of the whole deal with that studio.
mm,
So that whole edit of that short film was for us to launch the studio. And that night we had a chance to show it in front of an audience of all his friends.
mm,
Um, so that was wild to me and very surreal. And that's kind of been like the flow ever since. And from there, I just naturally got into editing, and editing
mm,
sort of became a skill set that I acquired. And also, I was able to like work off of, because the pandemic, when it happened, to be honest, if I didn't know how to edit, I wouldn't know what I'd do.
mm.
Like thinking about it now, when everything shut down. So yeah, I mean, I can't I can't say there's like one straight way to it. I just believe that if you put intention out there, the universe hears you, and
Mm. No,
it's just it.
interesting. Amazing. But what kind of genre do you love the most? And which kind of project do you feel like you're the best on working in? Like movies, commercials. Which kind of project do you love the most, and which kind of genre that you identify yourself with?
Well, the one I love the most is movies. I think narrative fiction has always been the thing I've identified with. I love going on journeys with characters. I love that time spent in that little like time capsule that you have when you're watching a movie. Um, Genre wise, I'm a sci-fi guy. I do like science fiction. It's very expensive.
Yeah.
So that's why I don't necessarily direct it as much, because I'm still building a bit of a profile in the directing world. I'm very much directing, but you have to, there's levels to this. Like before you get to the level where you can start making money like Christopher Nolan and doing whatever you want, like you have to start building that reputation. So that's
Yeah.
that's where I've only been in LA for 6 years, and I feel good about where I'm at progress wise. So maybe soon I'll be tackling a sci-fi. But yeah, sci-fi crime, they've always resonated with me. I mean, I grew up on films like, Scarface, Carlito's Way, and then District 9 is a really great film. I think that's like one of the best grounded sci-fi films I've seen in a while. Um, I do love horror, depending on how it's done.
Mm,
There was a moment there where I felt like horror was a bit
mm,
became pornographic. You know, some some people were like torture porn. Like for example, the Saw series. I think the first Saw is a great movie. Everything after that, I don't know why, but you know, didn't really. um, Outside of that, yeah, I mean, I appreciate what Jordan Peele's doing. He's definitely revitalizing the horror genre, in my opinion. So I'm excited to see Ari Aster, great director too, good horror film. Hereditary, if you haven't seen it, please.
Hmm.
Uh, yeah, I mean, of course, Kubrick. Listen, man, I could give you a novel of movies.
Okay. But how do you see yourself 5 years from now? And do you think that it's taking much time to get your big opportunity? Do you feel like, well, I've been waiting long time, and there's nothing really coming, etc. Do you think you're taking so long to get that higher, that big opportunity? And where do you see yourself 5 years from now?
Well, in 5 years from now, I see myself moving forward because of the opportunities that I'm taking on myself. Um, I came to LA at a very strange time, so I'm not going to be hard on myself in regards to where I'm at right now because I think it all had to happen the way it happened to get up to this point. See, like when I first got here, you know, I met Val, we're doing the whole entourage thing, but then COVID happened, right? So the world shut down for 2 years. That's 2 years out of the 6 years I've been here that you weren't really able to do any real production outside of like, you know, whatever you can do in your living room or you know, whatever.
Mm.
Um, so no, I feel in 5 years I would have been at a place where I will have completed some projects that I'm currently working on. Um, and then I can't really say I know what's in store for me there. I mean, the idea is always to continue to create, and there's just so many like irons in the fire right now that it's not necessarily there's no shortage in sight. So
Mm.
I feel really good. I feel like I've learned a lot having spent time around the community I've spent time with out here because you know Val he's a legend.
Yeah.
He's around a lot of legends. So through him and through his network, I was able to meet people who say yes and no to some of the stuff that people watch on TV. Like these are
Mm.
the people that you know I work around. So I've learned from them, and
Mm.
have taken all that knowledge, and I've just been applying it to my own strategy and you know on how I want to build my own database as an artist.
Yeah.
And yeah,
Yeah, no, networking is the biggest secret. You gotta do network if you're willing to achieve the high amounts and if you're willing to achieve the major goals. But
yeah.
can you tell us where do you get this all energy, this motivation, etc.? Is there any reason why you feel like I'm able, I'm invincible, and I will get there? Where do you get this whole motivation?
I realized that getting angry doesn't help. Doesn't help anything. Um, you can get angry with yourself. You know, you can get frustrated. You can want to push the limits. Obviously, you know, you have to take accountability for whatever shortcomings you feel you're not living up to in regards to whatever standard you're looking for. But I, yeah, I don't know. I just, all that other stuff's noise, you know, like it doesn't make sense to dwell or put any energy other than figuring out how I'm gonna get what I want or how I'm gonna get to create what I want. You know, like to me, that's more fulfilling. I like the challenge. The job calls for it because even let's say everything happens, you know, you get what you want, you got your financing, you got Leo DiCaprio as your lead and whoever as the second, you know. When you're on set, you got to deal with all the other stuff coming your way. And it doesn't mean you're going to make a good movie just because you have all those other things I mentioned, you know? So you still have to kind of, you just got to really, 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 at least for me, it works this way. You got to
Mm.
focus on what's important, you know? So that's really where the energy comes from. I know what's important. I know the potential of what this can do for me. I know what it can do for others. I don't just look at myself as a guy who wants to make movies, because again, hanging out with Val and working in that studio, that whole studio, it's a community space. So it taught me about the importance of having a foundation for other people to come on. And you know, I come from the Bronx, so again, a lot of
Yeah.
people in my town don't have that time, like that. They don't have this kind of opportunity to build something and create a space for others. And I think ultimately that's where the end goal in 5 years is going to be for me. Outside of me making a film that I, you know, love and, you know, put my heart and soul into, I want to have a space where people can also collaborate and people can build,
Is,
you know, with each other. That to me is more important. That's more
yeah.
important.
Is there a message you would like to leave for newcomers, young filmmakers, dreamers all over the world about this idea of keep fighting for our dreams, keep pursuing what we believe is our goal, is our destination? Which message is there a message you would like to leave to these dreamers all over the world? In particular, newcomers and new filmmakers.
Yeah, all the newcomers, be kind to yourself. Don't compare yourself to others. Trust your voice. Know that you have, look, Hollywood doesn't know what it wants. Even if you have an algorithm, I'm going to tell you right now, they always are surprised when something good comes and smacks them in the face. They don't know. And you might be that person. You might be the one that's going to just go, it's, you know what I mean? So, you know, really be kind to yourself, trust your voice, study the craft. I think it's important. I think even if things are changing now, understand where things have come from, so that way you can truly be a master at it. And you know, first and foremost, remember every project has its own clock. Remember that you're a project yourself, so there's a clock there, and you know, you're not going to stay in one place for too long. So, and my last one is do everything with intention. That's the most important thing. I think nowadays it's really easy to just jump on trends or do it because this person's doing it. Like, no, do it with intention. What do you really want to say? Making movies time. And the older you get, the more you're going to realize that. All right. Let's say you have the funds for a film. It could take you anywhere from 2 years to 3 years to make that movie. Think about that. So think about why you're doing and telling the stories that you want to tell. And I think the rest is golden, you know. I think the rest, allow yourself to have fun with it first and foremost too. So.
No, amazing. This was very, very deep. It was a pleasure to have you here on Shots with Legends, and I wish you all the best in your path, in your career. And we hope to see you in, let's say, in a major project in the near future. And we hope certainly to have you in the next opportunity here on Shots with Legends. Yeah. Wish you a great day.
You too.
Yeah, it was a pleasure. See ya. Bye-bye. Yeah. Pleasure to have you there. We felt your presence. We hope to see you in the next episodes of Shots of Legends. See you there.